Now, we can see the light at the end of the tunnel, right, for the pandemic and COVID-19, but many financial planners say that it's going to have some lingering effects for years, including hurting some people's plans to retire. So what can you do to make sure that you are still on the right track to retire? Dan Hernandez, CFP and president of Milestone Wealth Management, joins us now to help us out with that in mind. Dan, good morning. Thank you so much for joining us.
Good morning, Nick. Thanks for having me.
All right, so we have heard those stories about studies that show a large percentage of Americans dipped into their retirement funds to actually help them through the pandemic. Is that what you're hearing as well?
Yeah, I mean, the pandemic caused a series of issues for people. Some employers that were able to keep their doors open cut back, and where they cut back was on employer contributions to retirement plans to matching. So, problem number one. Problem number two is some people weren't able to work, and if they collected unemployment, if they were lucky enough to collect unemployment, they still weren't contributing to a retirement plan. Also, like you said, some people dipped into their retirement plans to make ends meet. And other people maybe took some money out of the market in fear of what was going on, and they maybe didn't recover as quickly either. So there's a series of problems that could have affected retirement accounts.
Sure. So you have some tips with us as well to kind of just maybe keep people on the right path, and as they're thinking about retirement in the future, and maybe perhaps how much they're going to need in retirement, because that's a big question, is how much I'm actually going to need. So how do we figure that all out?
Yeah, I mean, there's a rule of thumb, and again, it's ever changing, but generally speaking, if you have a nest egg, you can draw 4% of it or so a year and have that nest egg kind of last indefinitely. So, for some easy math, if you have, 400,000 at 4%, you can draw 16,000 a year and be able to do that hopefully the rest of your life. That's not a guarantee, but it is a rule of thumb. Market volatility certainly comes into play, but if you're trying to figure out how much you're going to need in retirement, that's a place to start. A lot of people have, pension plans if they work for the state or the federal government, so that factors in as well as Social Security.
All right. Well, Dan, one of the next steps you kind of suggest folks to do is try to catch up with our 401ks and contribute maybe to your own IRA. Talk a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so if you fell behind for any of the reasons I just described, then you have a couple of options. You can catch up. I mean, the 401k max contribution is $23,000 ish. So you have room to put money away. You certainly, depending on how much money you make and what kind of plan you have at work, you may have the option of doing, like you mentioned, your own IRA or Roth IRA. So I advise people to consult your financial advisor to see if these are options that you have, because not everyone can make a deductible IRA contribution or a Roth IRA. It depends, again, on how much you're earning, whether or not your company has a 401k or some type of retirement plan. But you have to get on track. We can do future value calculations to see if you are in fact going to reach that nest egg number that you need to be able to live on in retirement. So the best thing is probably to do those projections, to do those future value projections to see, hey, am I on pace? Am I short? And if you are short, then yeah, you need to step it up a little bit with savings if you can.
And right, whether it's those 401ks or those IRAs, investing wisely is on so many people's minds. Without, kind of getting into a huge breakdown of what we can do, what are some kind of things to remember when we do want to invest wisely with our money?
Yeah, some people make the mistake of trying to, we're talking about catching up. Some people try to catch up by being aggressive and by being overly aggressive, and that's certainly not smart. History has shown us that the S&P 500, as an example, has a historical average of between 7 and 9% a year. And that's over the last 10 years, that's over the last 30 years. So without doing anything fancy, I have a pretty high level of certainty that I can make that. So if I have a pretty high level of certainty that I can make that, then anything else deviating from that plan is a risk. And a lot of people, want to do high risk things, and as an example, right now, I'm certainly getting a lot of calls about cryptocurrency and Bitcoin, and we're advising, for the most part, stay away. Very, very volatile, very risky. And again, If I have a high level of certainty that I can, just kind of stay plain vanilla and make 7 to 9%, then why am I gonna get real fancy?
Right. All good advice, Dan. And so where can people go to get more information on what you guys do there and just maybe some tips moving forward as they try to kind of get those funds in order?
Yeah, they can reach me. My email is D Hernandez, my first initial last name, D Hernandez at Lincoln Investment, ending in T.com. Our office is in Voorhees, New Jersey. So, yeah, feel free to reach out. But, yeah, these are, the first thing you should really do is just do some projections, make sure you're on pace. And if you're not on pace, then we figure out how to get on pace.
Get back on track. All right, Dan, thank you so much for your time. Great advice as always. We appreciate it. All right, coming up this Friday, the intelligence.